My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of the Hannibal Lecter franchise from worst to best. And I say franchise loosely just because not all of these movies are related. Like, you've got the Manhunter movie, followed up by Silence of the Lambs, followed up by Hannibal. But then you've got a remake of Manhunter, and then you've got this unrelated prequel. So it's a little all over the place, but I do enjoy most of these movies. There's a couple real great ones here, and let's get into the ranking. First with the worst movie, and this was an easy choice, and it's Hannibal Rising. I've heard terrible things about this movie, and it's way worse than I heard. I just hated watching this movie so much. It is completely lifeless and void of any personality. Like, you've got Hannibal learning how to use a samurai sword, hunting down Nazis, and it still manages to be a dull piece of shit. I watched this movie less than a week ago and I forget everything about it. It's unbelievably boring. I hated it, despised it, never watch it. In number 4, his second worst movie is Red Dragon. Now, this is a slightly more accessible version of Manhunter. I do think they make some improvements with the script, whether it's the addition of that opening scene, or how some information is communicated clearly, or how the climax is much better here. But at the same time, it's just void of all the style that the original had, and there's just not enough new and better things here to warrant this movie existing. Edward Norton was completely miscast. Anthony Hopkins gives his most forgettable performance as Hannibal. Ray Fiennes does do a really good job, but I just think, I watched it, and it's fine enough, but it's not one. I'll say it like this: if I have to choose between this movie or Manhunter, I will almost always pick Manhunter. I just don't think this movie needed to exist. My third favorite Hannibal Lecter movie is Manhunter. I do have some issues with it. The second half of this movie does drag a bit too much. I do think the way some information's communicated is a bit unclear. And William Peterson has some very goofy, over-the-top moments as Will Graham, and not in a good way. But, all that said, Michael Mann just elevates this movie in every possible way. It has the aesthetics of an 80s movie, and I just love the sound, the vibe it has, the look of the movie, and it makes for a much more entertaining watch. Brian Cox isn't in this movie long, but he does do a really good job as Hannibal, and I feel like I was a little too harsh on it in my review. I think it's better than I gave it credit for. So even though I do have some issues, Michael Mann just elevates it, and it ends up being number 3. My second favorite Hannibal Lecter movie is Hannibal. I heard really bad things about this movie my entire life, and color me surprised because I didn't just like it. I really freaking liked it, and the more I sit with it, the more I like it. It's a much more simplistic movie than what came before, but it's still highly entertaining with some very tense and thrilling moments. It's just all these different characters going after the same guy, and I found it to be riveting. And the last half hour of this movie is just beyond messed up. It's really gross and sickening and effective, and I love it for those reasons. I also think Anthony Hopkins does a really good job. I didn't write his name down, but the actor who played the inspector was really good as well. And Julianne Moore isn't as good as Jodie Foster, but she still makes this character her own. So I've got very few issues with this movie, actually. I think it's just a blast. It's one I will go back to many times, and I might like it more with my next rewatch. So that's why it comes in second place. But my number one pick was always going to be The Silence of the Lambs, and how could it not? This movie is just a masterpiece in every single aspect. The character of Hannibal and how we know he is this sick, disgusting person. The way he's built up to early on just has you on edge. And you see him and he can act like a real gentleman. And he's actually trying to help Clarice out. And letting her figure things out and give her hints when he can. And that just makes him much more fascinating of a character than a cliche serial killer. And Anthony Hopkins just plays him perfectly. And then you've got Clarice, who is really trying to prove herself. And I just think Jodie Foster owns this character. She's just so fantastic here, and she carries this movie incredibly well. And then you've got Buffalo Bill, who is just all kinds of sadistic. And the way the movie progresses for the first two acts is excellent. Some great character work. It's compelling. It's highly entertaining. But then you get to the last act, and you've got this amazing prison break scene with Hannibal. And then you've got this sequence where you think they're about to catch Buffalo Bill, and nope, instead Clarice is in danger. And that is just such a brilliant moment. And the tension for like the next 10-15 minutes, just some of the best stuff ever in movies. You feel like she's so outpowered, and Buffalo Bill could come in at any moment and attack her, and it just has you on edge. And then the lights go out, and you see it from his point of view, and when he presses the trigger and she heals it and she goes back and shoots him, it is one of the most satisfying moments in movie history. It's just a giant, I can breathe now. And some of the final line in this movie, I'm having an old friend for dinner, is just brilliant. I just think this movie is incredibly well directed. It's incredibly well acted. The characters are incredible. They have complexities, and their relationship is so damn fascinating. It's just a perfect movie in every way. So that's why it's my number one. But what is your ranking of the Hannibal Lecter movies? Let me know in the comments down below. And I will be talking about the TV show starting very soon. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin out.